Welcome to Martini time. I hope the connection holds here. It was a little weak to begin with. I have a lemon twist in my martini. My uncle, who ordained me as the martini priest, always had a lemon twist. And I've kind of switched to an olive, but then the olives I have are not too good right now, so I thought I would come back to a lemon twist because a lemon twist is kind of like that little Zen twist, you know. It's kind of like a surprise, something with a twist in it. Took me a while to figure out what a lemon twist was. It's not a slice of lemon, it's a peel. So, yeah, that's good. And last night we talked about the Confederate monuments and them coming down in various cities, New Orleans, and even should they come down in Richmond. And the thread has been running all day, commenting on it. The knots keep getting passed down the thread. It's like the Civil War was the knot in the American collective. And ever since then, that knot has been moved down the thread. Same knot, different, we're like a knot on a silk scarf. You know, in other words, the knot is the same, even though the times and conditions are different. So the knot keeps coming down our thread of American history. And it looks different from it was in the past, so we don't recognize it, but it's the same knot. And we're still trying to untie it. But it's like a knot with two people trying to untie it in different ways. And when one unties it, the other's tying it. And when the other's untying it, the other's tying it. So it's kind of like an endless knot. Everyone wants the knot to go away. Everyone feels the pain of the knot, but we keep tying it as we're tying it. This is a mythological motif in Odysseus, Penelope, Odysseus' wife, who was the queen, and Odysseus was gone, and she needed to find a suitor who would take over the kingdom. So she kept putting him off by weaving during the day. And she said, "When I finish this weave, whatever she was weaving, I'll choose a suitor." So she wove during the day, but at night she unraveled it. And in Avatar, in Life of Pi, the carnivorous island, remember that? And when he left the island, he said what the island gives during the day, it takes away at night. So you get this motif of something being done during the day and unraveled at night, so that it never moves. So this knot in the American collective just gets passed down. And nobody can untie it. And the only thing that really gets rid of it is time and the watering down of the generations who remember the knot and still argue over the knot. So in time, it's kind of like the Hatfields and the McCoys, or a family feud. In time, people say, what was this all about? And they just quit. That's how civil wars end, by exhaustion. People just get tired. People just get worn out and move on, you see. So I question now whether we're at a new point in our national life where the knot is being loosened, and as it loosens, those who still love the knot tighten it, grab it back, and keep it tight, you see. But yet there are things that are happening that will loosen it. So I was writing today about this, and so the Civil War today is between the red and the blue states, right? And there are certain qualities of each side that remind us of the original divide in the colonies. You see, the original divide became an industrial society of the North where immigrants came from Europe to feed the factories. And the South was an agrarian society. And there are two times operating these. These societies became two different realities, two different persons, two different perspectives on reality, two different worlds. We still feel that today. I live in Blackstone, so rural Virginia, small town. Courthouse has a statue of the Civil War soldier. The soldiers that died from the Nottoway militia are on that thing. And people here reenact the Civil War. I mentioned that my great-great-grandfather was captured, and he was in the Virginia Army, was captured. Fourth cousin, who was alive at 104, had his birthday in Life magazine, and back in the 50s, I guess, or 40s, 50s. And yeah, so this, and then we have these societies, the Confederate daughters, and this protection of the lineage, and the status of having a relative who fought in the war. You see, it's all very important here in the South. And you can notice that even today, like when I go to New York and you get on the New Jersey Turnpike and you stop at a rest stop, it's a melting pot. All kinds of languages and all kinds of colors and shades and gray. And then you leave the North and it's mixing and it's turmoil and it's confusion. And you come back to the South and you get off the turnpike and you go see the cows and the open fields and you go, and you come back to the small towns and you just have two colors, you just have black and white, and everybody speaks English with a dialect a little bit different, but it's very simple. It's just a duality, it's just two, either or. And in the North, there's many, you see. And there are different times. The South originally was a planting society. And the rhythm of a planting society is the seasons. Planting in the spring, harvest in the fall. The industrial society is run by artificial time. The factory whistle, the clock, indoor lighting. Go to New York, there's no seasons. It's all artificial time. Man time. You see, everything is time. It's a whole different reality. You just get off the subway and go into New York City. And then go back into the subway and get off and come up into a small rural town. You see, this two different worlds. And so now the country seems to have, because of the conditions of our age now, the Civil War has just morphed into a different form. But the same feelings are there, you see. And then you connect this with globalization, you see. So globalization is changing boundaries of nations. Like in Europe, there's a resistance to that now. The EU was like the formation of a new country, and each country now became a state in the EU. And there are no boundaries, which is what happened in the United States. You had the colonies with boundaries, like little countries. Virginia was a little country. South Carolina was a little country. Everybody identified with their state, with their country. In the old Western, about when you read the West, you know, the old West and everything, everybody was the Virginian, the Carolinian, the guy from Tennessee, the Texan. You see, everybody was identified by their country, by their state. You see, and so this many and the one, the many becoming one, a larger whole, is the dialectic or law of evolution. It's constantly going on, and it's going on very rapidly today, primarily because we invented the internet. Now, the internet is a reality in which we live. It's powered, it's an artificial reality because if you pull the plug out, it goes dark. You know, when you lose the power, the reality goes. But when the thing is on, it is a boundless, timeless reality like New York City that never sleeps. When you go to New York and come up, it might be 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 5 in the morning. You come up on the street, it's the same. It goes 24/7. The internet goes 24/7. You see, there are no boundaries on the internet. Everybody's computer or smartphone is the center of the internet, is the center of the universe. This is a different paradigm, a different reality. And it's creating globalization, which is the elimination of traditional boundaries. Corporations now are not state responsible entities, they are global responsibilities. They're all over the place. There's no, it's kind of like the internet. You can store stuff everywhere. You erase it here, it's still over there. Same with corporations. You erase one here, it's still all around everywhere else, you see. So there's a different paradigm going on. There's a different organization of reality. It's also consciousness. You see, consciousness, human consciousness evolves. And consciousness creates the world we live in. So our human consciousness is evolving. It's becoming it's expanding. Human consciousness is expanding. And when you expand, you transcend traditional boundaries and compartments and create a greater whole. So human consciousness is expanding, and it expands by creating a reflection of itself or a material replication of itself, which is the internet. Which comes first, you see, the material or the consciousness or the mind? So the mind that creates the internet and the globalization and this new paradigm is creating what it is itself becoming. So the evolved consciousness is creating an evolved and changing world. And change always creates a backlash. So there's always this push-pull. The expanding universe is pulling away like taffy at what we are used to, what we're familiar with, what gives us identity, what gives us meaning. So the new order appears and feels like it's destroying the meaning of my life, the value of my life and my parents and my ancestors, you see. So there's this conflict of values. And we're right in the middle of it, you see. And we can't tell which way it's going, because when you're in it, you can't tell whether you're tying the knot or untying the knot. But there's a knot. And it's So in our American politics, you see, this too is a manifestation of evolving consciousness. So where the conditions of our current Civil War, the red and the blue, basically is, you can see its roots in our history, and you can see how that it's creating two different reality perceptions, so that whatever arises, even if anything that comes up, there's going to be two views. See, everything that appears comes in two, red and blue. You see, so the red sees the fact with one meaning, the blue sees the same fact with an opposite meaning, with an opposite view. And so the conflict goes on, you see. And it gets very frustrating because neither side can understand how the other comes to the conclusion they come to. It's kind of like the Janus God, one America with two faces, or two on the TV, two talking heads. And so we even created on our news. So when the news, pro-cable news, is going to have CNN or whatever, they're going to discuss a fact, they bring up two opposite heads. And it gets very absurd, because each one is arguing logically, with passion, what the fact means. But it has two opposite meanings. See, so truth is constantly being split into two, you see, like that. And it's driving us crazy, because it's schizophrenia. It's bipolar. You see, it's like America has a bipolar mind, neither of which can communicate with the other. And this can't be sustained. This can't, insanity cannot be sustained. Conflict cannot be, contradiction that divides the one against itself, like a marriage, cannot be sustained. But you see, we can't get divorced. The Civil War was an attempt to get divorced, and it failed. And but we need to, just to put on a wider angle, wider lens here to see the greater historical context and the fact that we're an evolving culture, we're an evolving organism, America. We're an evolving consciousness. And all this is the pain of evolution. Evolution does not come without labor. New birth does not come without pain, you see. And so we're going through pain, we're going through labor. We're trying to give birth to a new America. And we don't know what this kid's going to look like. Nobody knows what their kid's going to be. Nobody knows what the future's going to be. But we're giving birth to something. And before the baby's born, the pain gets very intense. Before the baby is born, the mother starts screaming. Right? So the mother is the womb, and the new baby is always coming out of the previous order. So it's like you go from womb, which has a contradiction, and this tension, like this tension in the world of two opposites that can't agree on the one. When it gets so great, there's either a self-destructive civil war like Syria, or you take the creative route and give birth to a new being, a new America, a new vision that incorporates the values of both of the previous bipolar division, polarity. So when you have a polarity, both sides are valuable. Both sides are right. That's why there's a war. Both sides see half the truth. So when a new order is born, it becomes whole in one truth by including the values of both the sides. It's not a compromise. It is a totally new being or world. And I really think that's what we're doing here, is we're giving birth to a new America. And that's what America does. We do that because we receive cultures, people, values from all over the world. And they come here and they just mix it up and create new stuff. Families that don't get outside of their little valley inbreed and they lose their vitality. That's why species always cross territories to mate. They don't mate within their same little tiny circle, you see. So you're always needing outsiders to come in, to bring in new seeds of growth, you see. And that's what's made America the light of the world, the creative juice of the world. And once we stop that, once we build a wall and we cut up, we say we have enough, nobody else comes in. That's a retraction. That's not expanding, that's retreating. That's hunkering down. That's building walls. Putting out a gun and a flag. Keep the Yankees out. So anyway, I just keep trying to paint with a broader canvas, a broader panorama, because we get locked up with a narrow focus lens. You know, you got a camera bag, you got two lenses. You got the wide angle, you got the narrow focus lens. If you want to focus on one bird, you put the zoom lens on and you focus on that one bird, but the background goes blurred. You don't know where the bird is. Is he on a branch? Is he on a fence post? I don't know. All I see is the bird. Put on the wide angle lens, you see the whole context. Everything's in focus. You see panorama all the way around, you see. So it's kind of like on a GPS. It's a good idea, I know from experience, to look at an overall map to see where the GPS is going to take you to make sure you got the right address in there. If you don't look at the overview and you just focus on where the GPS is going, you may have put in the wrong county or something, and you may end up where you don't want to be. So Reagan was right, you know, trust but verify. Verify with a wide angle lens. Get the bigger picture. And that's understanding. That's understanding. So thanks for dropping in, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.